Boom.
We're recording.
We are
Look
recording.
at that.
We got audio.
We got audio. We're ready to go. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to On the DELO. This is a very special podcast. I warned you guys that I would be bringing in special guest of mine that I feel will really add some amazing value to people's lives. And today we have a very good friend of mine, and also he helps me, let's just say personally and professionally. His name is Al Fuentes.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God, that's so magical the way I say that. So anyways, Al is, I have buttons, people, which is going to be absolutely
scary.
amazing for this going forward. I just don't know which button is which. So if the sound does not match the multitude of what we're talking about here, then it's my fault. So Al, he got started in 1994. Does that sound about right? In your speaking career?
Yeah, actually, it is right.
In front of what, 300 kids in a gym? Is that's how it all started? So Al has been doing this for a while, and Al works with athletes, movie stars, business owners, kids, troubled teens, musicians, law enforcement, military, you name it. Al works with it, and he works, I guess, in the capacity of what we would call mental coaching. So explain to everybody that's listening, what is a mental coach? What do you do?
Well, a lot of people may have different definitions, but mine is I'm a personal trainer for the brain. So if you had a personal trainer for the body and you'd say, hey, I want to get stronger, better abs, biceps bigger, and also I have a bum knee and I need some help, they'd assess you, they'd figure out what kind of program to put you on, and then they'd write a workout for you. And then you do the workout, you get stronger. Same thing with the brain. The brain can actually be exercised. And so with my clients, I talk to them. I understand emotional constructs, mental constructs, programming, even their blind spots, their hitches, their glitches. And then at the end of a session, I do a visualization, a guided visualization. It's not some basic thing. It's very scientifically developed to assist them in rewriting their brain. And from the subconscious space, theta, delta frequencies, if you know what those are, that part of the brain to rewrite your subconscious mind, because that's where all the tapes and all the perspective of what you see life as today comes from how you evolved as a kid and your relationship to the human world, and then the influence of the human world on top of that. And so this kind of work rewrites that. That's a great definition. And you're right, everybody may have a different definition when they just look at the word mental coaching. It's like, was this some woo guru stuff, or is it, but what you just said, and I wanted to talk about that, like how different, if at all, is the body from the mind? Like when people work out their body, are they all kind of one and the same because you got to utilize your mind to strengthen your body? Well, no, they're actually completely independent things.
Yeah.
The body itself truly can exist. Unfortunately, there's plenty of cases out there, people in comas, people who are brain dead, and the body still exists. And essentially, the body has its own infinite wisdom, has its own construct and consciousness to it. That's why you can breathe on your own, and you don't have to tell your blood to flow a certain place. And a beautiful pregnant woman doesn't have to say, okay, today we're going to make the toes. It all just happens in this greater space. And then the mind is this beautiful thing in its own construct. And there's a couple pieces to that. There's the front consciousness, there's the back consciousness of the mind, and then what I would call super consciousness. So if you can learn to separate these versus what most humans do is think it's all the same, like the body, mind's all the same. The one thing that is similar is you can actually train the brain just like you train the body. That part you can do, but they are separate things.
Yeah. Do you find in the element of working with many different types of human beings that we are all the same but very much all different?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say to people, I said, it's because we're all different that we're all the same. And we're the same beautiful humans trying to figure it out, struggling or lost or finding our soul, finding our greater truth, finding this greater connection. And some people are more aware of themselves, their connection. Some people have different styles to how they do this human world. And it could be anything from like, hey, I'm an avid skydiver, to another person's like, oh, well, I'm an avid downhill skier. Or it could be like, hey, I chose to be homeless. Or another person would be like, hey, I chose to be a billionaire. It's amazing. All the differences, the one thing that is constant is every one of us have this humanness inside of us that we're trying to sort out. and find balance with in this lifetime.
What are some of the commonalities between people that come to you with? I would have to assume a lot of times people come to you with issues. And so what are some of the most common issues that the average everyday, person is just looking for answers on when it's, contained within themselves, but they utilize you to help them kind of get it out?
Yeah, it's the brain is running the show.
Yeah.
Like they're thinking too much. They can't change their programming. A lot of people come and know some of their things they want to fix. And if they could, they would, but they don't know how. So a lot of times when people come to me, it's just the brain and their, what I would call their human construct that they've developed and programmed over time, over the course of a lifetime, plus then this collective human conscious thing out there is running the show. They wake up. Are you going to be happy today? Well, I don't know. What's the world saying? Mm-hmm. How does that dictate it? So most people come to me feeling like they don't have control of their emotional, mental, even their physical space. And so that's pretty much what everyone is working on.
And a lot of people have, I would say, habits that they don't know how to break out of, or they don't know how to create, say, new ones that might be healthy habits. And so when you look at the world that we're living in just today at this moment, oh my God, stock market's crashing. Oh my God, all my crypto's gone. Like all of these things. And I think people a lot of times will get on their phones and look at the news and do stuff and feel like they're out of control when they have no control over it, other than they have the control over their mindset about it.
Yeah, it gets a little tougher. I mean, listen, I've been at a place in my life where I didn't know how to pay my bills, or being a kid and being on welfare and not knowing meals. And so you try to tell somebody who's really living it tough that, hey, this is just all, if you change your mind, this all gets easier. It's really tough when people are looking for their next meal or they're homeless. But there is a lot of truth to that, because the situations that we find ourselves in, it's something that if we can start the process of reframing our mind and just elevate our internal experience with what's in front of us, then we can start getting clarity, making better choices, even have understanding of how I got here in the first place, and then slowly chip away at shaping a new way of life for yourself. And then what happens is slowly your environment starts changing. And so it's tough because you tell somebody, hey, change your mind and this is all so much better.
Right. Yeah, what you're thinking is bullshit, right?
Yeah, right. No, because what you're thinking is very normal, because this human world is very tough, and us in this human world, it's a struggle. Yeah. But if you can not buy into the hype of the collective human consciousness, the pain, the struggle, the you have to grind kind of mindset, right. Even like suffering builds character. These are all beautiful human constructs, but not ones you have to buy into. So when you start shifting and changing that, well, what does a new construct look like, and how can I live in that new construct?
Yeah, and to kind of parlay off of that, with people listening in today's the middle of June 2022, and so we see all these things in the human world, such as increased gas prices and fires in Flagstaff, and just all these things that really us personally don't have any control over. So if you were to talk to people that are listening to this right now, like what would be free advice you can kind of give to them as they're seeing all this stuff?
Oh no, you can PayPal me for this. Like, I'm just kidding. I have this conversation a lot.
Yeah.
Because between various things that are going on politically, various things going on even in war and in some of the shootings, and then of course wildfires and gas prices and everything else. Ultimately, if you look historically over your lifetime, so the person listening, if you look historically over your lifetime, you've seen so many differences. You've seen people who in your environment come and go. Presidents come and go. Yeah. Sometimes Republicans, sometimes you have all these other things in your life. But the reality is that no matter who you have, if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, if we're in war or not in war, none of these things have to dictate how you internally feel and how you show up in life. And we do, though. We look at gas prices. We feel disempowered because we're worried or concerned and we're frustrated, or it is taking more money out of our account. But the reality is these things that you can't control are the things we put our energy into, and then that lowers our vibration and it lowers our positivity, our frequency even, versus going, okay, like I can't control these things, but I can control how I deal with it, how I process it. Can I show up big? Can I then historically look over my life and go, well, I've had lots of other things. Yeah. I got through them. Didn't know how at the time, but I see now that I did. I've got this.
It's all about energy, isn't it? And energy comes and flows and comes in ins and out. And I was talking about this with one of my trainers this morning, and I was just talking about how if you look back at your human self 20 years ago compared to where you're at now, it's a completely different cellular level of a human being, you know, in that aspect. And I mean, that's beautiful advice. What's your PayPal? So people know. Let's see that. Oh, wrong one. But anyways, so no, I mean that's phenomenal, and you know it's very relative to today and what's going on. Tell me about what it's like to. I'll use the word coach, but let's just say talk and help, you know, kids to teens. How is that different from adults, and why is it so important at like a young age for anybody that's kind of going through understanding what life's about to come, you know, talk to somebody that's a little bit different than say their parents?
Honestly, younger kids, it's even easier for the most part. Collectively, it's easier. If you had 10 kids, it's going to be easier to work with them than 10 adults because they're still shaping their programming and they're still in this state of being connected to a greater truth. Because when we're born as these beautiful babies, there's this just simple essence to us, and we're connected to this greater truth because we can't, you know, fix a light bulb and we can't change ourselves and we can't feed ourselves. So all we can do is be as a baby. Yeah. And then as we grow in life, we start building these constructs. Even at a little age, innocently, parents are like, is that your rubber ducky? My rubber ducky. Like my blanket. And then we start to build these things with the human world, dependencies, disempowerment. But still over time, it takes quite a while for all that to become permanent. So the kids, and I've worked with 3-year-olds all the way up until 18 is what I would consider a kid. They're really easy to work with because if you can introduce these constructs, like, you know what, that feels right to me, and this isn't mine yet. This humanness isn't mine yet. So let me go back to this.
Yeah. Wow, that's very cool. Getting into Al and what his life looks like, and you know, obviously I've been to your house. You've been my personal coach for years now. You've also been my wife and my kids and all that. But I think for people listening, you know, and if you see video of this, you can see what Al looks like. He's very, very handsome. That was perfect. That worked well. But he's not like dressed up in robes with a big white beard and this and that. You would just almost bump into him at a vegan restaurant and be like, you know, oh, that's cool, just another dude. But there's so many intricacies to you, and I know so much like realms of different things that you do in order to have the energy to be able to help others. So, like, what is a typical morning for you? What do you love?
That's a great question. Waking up, it's just feeling like, like honestly, I'm not someone who wakes up blissful or wakes up in this like, life is magical, let's go win the day. I was a really dysfunctional human for a long time, which is how I got into this accidentally, was just trying to fix myself. And then it just became something that other people wanted to learn about. And then 15 and a half years in this business now, it's just really what I do. So I wake up and I have to right away start programming the mindset I want to have, the feelings I want to have, the lightness I want to have, because my humanness, which will never go away, deals with the fight, the grind, the heaviness of life. And it's small now. That voice of humanness is really small. Yeah. So it's easy to kind of get momentum. A lot of my mornings, every morning starts with my supplements that feed me. And when I'm taking these supplements in, I'm feeling this life, this vitality, this choice to love myself. So I'm starting to work on my love and my happiness by just taking my supplements, my shake. You've seen all the jars and everything, all these beautiful Mother Earth ingredients. I start taking that, and that builds momentum. I'm like, all right, I'm doing more to love and honor not only my physical body, but myself.
Well, before you go on, I think with you, it's for the audience to kind of really understand, you're making a conscious effort to be like, these are the things that are giving me this love, and you're actually talking to it and giving it the energy and the love, as opposed to just shoving a bunch of pills down your throat and thinking this is something that I have to do. It's something that you want to do in the effect of feeling the most amazing, powerful person that you can for the day.
Yeah, it's really doing things that I meet it where it's at.
Yeah.
So if it's going to be meditation, I don't just expect the meditation to do something for me. I know I have to meet the meditation where it's at. I have to meet the supplements where they're at. And to do that would be like, okay, like I'm not just going to go blindly take these things. Okay, here's what you are. Here's what I am. Here's what I want from this. And now in my intention. So, and then sauna is often a lot of mornings, infrared sauna. Mm-hmm. And then I just start rocking and rolling. And a lot of times my meditative state, I kind of save that because I'm in kind of a moving meditation in the morning.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will meditate first thing, but at this point of my personal mental career, I like to do it right after a workout, or especially sit in the pool, just after training outside in the heat at 110.
You have an amazing pool for just sitting there and looking at the mountains.
Yeah, I just get to stare at the mountains, and so I kind of save my deep meditation for like later in the day. But in the morning, I'm definitely breathing, definitely getting into my meditative state while moving.
Yeah.
So that I'm in this state of consciousness. In this state, I observe my thoughts and observe the desire of my soul.
Right.
And I just kind of put it all together in a functional morning.
Yeah.
And then I'm right into sessions.
You're ready to rock. And meditation doesn't have to be like sitting there for an hour and just being silent. Meditation can be for, people that want to just sit there for 5 minutes and just kind of collect their thoughts. And I mean, I tell people all the time, like sometimes for me, meditating is listening to, hardcore Metallica and, going for a mile run, because my mind is just fixated on what's going on then and there and not, all over the place.
Sure. I would say that if you're not really well versed in moving meditation, and you don't have a large framework of meditation in your life in general.
Right.
I couldn't do how I do it now, even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago or 17 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
I had to sit quiet. I had to get connected. I had to really work on nothing else but trying to get control of this mind. Because what most people find is when they try to sit and get still, they start to realize how fast their thoughts are, how tight their body is. And so when I initially started, I really wanted that time in the morning to slow everything down, disconnect the thoughts from my experience. They could still be there. They just weren't running the show.
Yeah.
And now, after evolution, I've been able to kind of do it a little differently. But one of the things you made a comment to, which is really important, is even though I've had this really cool spiritual journey and I do all these really cool things privately on my own with my journey and work, and I'll even work with clients like yourself who are wanting to seek different spiritual experiences and paths.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. But honestly, the more I learn from this greater consciousness, the universe, this greater way of being, the simpler and the more it's about integrating in everyday human life. Mm-hmm. It's not woo-woo. It's, how are you breathing? How are you showing up? How are you making choices that honor you or make your life easier versus make your life harder? It's very practical, very functional. I come from a pragmatic place when I coach people, and you can't just lean on spirituality, but you also can't just lean on humanness. There's this beautiful kind of weaving in of the two, and that's where I feel like, for me, the specialty is being able to take this greater construct into play, but not from a woo-woo place, and not making you feel like you have to then disconnect from humanity to exist in it. It's like, how can you integrate this greater consciousness into your everyday life? A cup of coffee, if you're an accountant, if you're an insurance person, if you're an athlete, whatever it is you do is irrelevant. It's how you integrate it which matters.
From a business perspective, as far as like people that run their own businesses and entrepreneurs, and I know you deal with like a lot of those and a lot of real estate agents and stuff like that. What are some key takeaways for them that are just running an everyday, such a busy life that they feel like they don't have time for any of this sort of thing?
Yeah. What happens with people in general, but especially those people who feel an entrepreneur who feels like if they're not doing something, nothing's happening. Like I'm responsible for my own paycheck, so to speak. Yeah. And so listen, your brain is going to be a part of your life. And here's the question I would ask any entrepreneur or any high-level elite person. Do you want it to dictate how you experience life, or do you want to dictate to your brain? The brain's very powerful, but the problem is that if it runs too fast, if the RPMs are too high, then you're not in your sweet spot. The example I would say is like a Porsche. And Porsches operate at a very high RPM versus like a Toyota Corolla, and so when a Porsche is at its perfect idle state, when it's just driving down the road, 4,000 to 5,000 RPMs is exactly where a Porsche likes to run while it's driving down the road, so it can hit its target. If it needs to redline from 4,000 to 5,000, it can do that. A Toyota going down the road is going to idle at or rev at like 2,000, or even 1,700. But when you're talking about an entrepreneur who has to be performance-based and make sure everything's moving accordingly and responsible for everything, they got to be in that sweet spot. And so their fear is if they slow down, they're going to slow down their RPMs and they're not going to perform.
That's a great analogy.
And the reality is they're redlining all day long. And I don't care how nice the car is, even a Bugatti, it cannot be, it can't live in the red line. So you have to back it down to that target. It's still going to be elite because it's not going to be everyone's normal RPMs.
Right.
But it's got to drop down some, so you have the ability to shift and go down gears or up gears depending on the moment. And so for a business person who isn't doing that, and most aren't because they're not actively controlling the RPMs of their mind or their thoughts, then you're missing out on the opportunity to actually perform better. So slowing down to get the RPMs in the right spot will actually create greater performance than you just thinking you need to redline all day long.
That's so beautifully said. That calls for a button. Oh, wait a minute, right. That is so beautifully said. I got to tell you, that snippet right there will be great for people that are revving their RPMs too high to listen to. I absolutely love it. Thank you for that. Let's talk about the fact that do you hear all the time that people are so hard on themselves for making mistakes? Like what is a common solution for somebody that just keeps beating the shit out of themselves because they felt like they did something wrong, as opposed to maybe taking that mistake and utilizing it as a learning experience?
Yeah, well, there's two pieces to that. The judgment that we give to ourselves, we actually believe is the necessary fuel to make us better. And so to get somebody to understand how to observe without judgment, and then actually instead of using negative fuel, because that's what we would do, like, oh, I'm such a failure, or I screwed up, or I'm so stupid, or whatever else, this negative fuel, it's defeating, and also it doesn't actually motivate us or fuel us to actually evolve.
Yeah.
And if you shift that into an understanding and awareness perspective, then you're going to have a non-judgmental understanding, which gives you a much more 3D view of what you did, how you showed up, so without beating yourself up, so that you can actually learn to evolve from it. But when you do that negative fuel thing, thinking that that's helping you get better, you're just your mind gets tighter, it gets closed off more. You get very much like just language like, I'm so stupid, or I'm an idiot, I can't believe, like how, versus going, hey, that happened.
Yeah.
Well, just let me see all sides of it. I'm not perfect.
Right.
I'm going to accept myself. And then inherently, we start accepting other people as well. If you can learn to accept yourself more, and then effectively not only work with yourself to evolve and grow, but then work with somebody else who, is acting as a human that you would think otherwise is being a jerk.
Yeah. How like bringing perspective to you being a real person, like how many times do you feel like you get caught up in the rigmarole of like, because you and I were talking in front of the bathroom, and I had a situation yesterday where I wanted to just go off, and I got to take a deep breath and calm, be like, okay, I'm it's gonna be fine, I'm gonna get through this. But like, I know a lot of, like, sometimes you talk about how even still when you drive, and sometimes when people piss you off on the street, you still have to collect yourself and acknowledge that it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, our humanness is so deeply ingrained into this experience of us being alive. And then the collective human consciousness is also. So for anyone to get triggered, I don't believe anyone's ever going to get more than 70 to 80% good at this stuff.
Yeah.
That's the real truth, and myself included. And so, yeah, there are times I can get triggered by someone, swerving into my lane, or like, that person's an idiot. Why would you do that? Like, and what I keep doing is keep checking myself and keep letting go and just loving people where they're at. Mm-hmm. More importantly, though, I don't hyper focus on any little small trigger. Yeah. I just realize, hey, I have humanness just like everyone else, and I continue to just lighten it and let it go. Lighten and let go of even your own choices that maybe aren't the highest vibrational, or maybe don't create the greatest outcome. So something like judging somebody, it's a small thought. It fires in the brain. Yeah. It releases a chemical in your body, and that chemical in your body can actually impede other firings. It can make you sick. It can make muscles hurt and elbows ache. That's actually what negative frequencies or vibrations that fire in the brain release chemicals. And if we build these chemicals over time, it creates a lot of disease for us.
You get sick, yeah.
Wow. So even that little thought, I'm looking at going, okay, I got to clear that, and then I have to counter it and really let go and fire a frequency that releases, fire a frequency of my choosing versus what my humanness wants to do. Yeah. And the more I keep countering my triggers with this other experience that I want to have, the less they come, and the smaller, when they do come, they are.
That's beautifully said as well. That's really good advice for anybody listening, for sure. Well, let's get into some of the other woo-woo things that people would consider woo-woo or whatever. And me not included, because I had done a session with you last month, I believe, and there was just this beautiful sunrise. And what was the drink that you had made me?
It was a cacao, like a special cacao drink.
Yeah, with gold in it, I think.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, so good.
Ormus is what it's technically called, but it is actual gold.
Yeah, and you can see the picture of me on Instagram sitting on your porch, and the sun just coming up in my face. And but that being said, I wanted to get more into different aspects of my life and travels, for lack of a better term. But we talk about astro travel, we talk about channeling, we talk about Reiki. What was it like? What part of your career was it that you started to want to get into these other things and knew that they would be of value to other, human beings?
Yeah, well, actually, Reiki was the first thing I ever did.
Okay.
Again, this was never a career for me. I was a messed up individual, in a lot of pain, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally. When I started on this journey, I had already been divorced 2 times, working on my 3rd. And I was pretty lost in all categories: righteous, judgmental, arrogant, you name it.
Yeah.
But just in a really big human pain body, I would say. And then met this lady, and she's like, hey, you want to do Reiki? I'm like, sure. I don't know what it is, but I'm in.
Yeah.
And I started doing this Reiki practice. And for those who don't know what Reiki is, it's just life force energy. It's just, we all have energy that flows through us, and then there's this energy around us. And if you learn how to do a certain kind of breathing and a certain kind of connection, you can channel in a greater energy, more than just yours, that exists in your body, and channel it not only through your body, but out through your body. And that's really what it is. And so that's what I started with, and just for my own healing. And then I had bought a book from the same lady that she was selling these books, in this book. So every morning I'd get up and I'd do my Reiki practice, and which is doing energy on myself, opening up, and I'd read a chapter in this book, and I'd do the exercise at the end. And that was how I started down this road for myself.
Wow.
And again, because I was so messed up in every category. And so that actually became a spiritual practice. And it was all designed, because even the book wasn't like you need to know these things and this is what you need to, this is the truth. It's just like, hey, here's information, take it, do something with it. At the end of the chapter, there's an exercise. You make whatever truth you want to make out of this. And that was the concept of the book. That's the concept of Reiki. You call it in, you make whatever truth you want. So right away, I wasn't on this like personal development journey of like pull in Tony Robbins. I've never listened to him. Deepak Chopra, I know him obviously, but I've never heard any of his or read any of his stuff. And so I just kind of like went on this personal journey within myself and with this energy work, and it started opening everything else up. And so fast forward 2 years, my whole life changed. I did a lot of things, astral travel and channeling work, channel writing, a lot of really cool things to just keep calling in this greater energy. And so regardless of whatever the woo-woo thing is, the simple concept, and this is how I was able to do this business, the simple concept was getting out of the front brain, tapping into the back brain, tapping into something greater than you. Yeah. That was the foundation of every one of these kind of spiritual things that I was doing. And so when it came time to start this business, it was by people going, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Because in 2 years it passed and I was completely different. And so I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, because I just kind of said, hey, well, I do Reiki. And people are like, you're weird. I'm like, all right, well, that doesn't really work. And I kind of like closed my eyes, said, universe, what do you want? What am I supposed to do with this? Anything? Or should I just keep chucking loans? Because that's what I was doing at the time.
Right.
And so I was like, that's when the universe is like, keep it simple, make it scientific, and just create a system that's measurable, repeatable, and tangible. So when I started off, people call me a breath coach, they call me a mental coach, they call me lots of things, but I never showed up as spiritual. I just showed up as functional. I showed up as training the brain, exercising. And then what always was my personal path started coming out in my work. And today it looks a lot different now.
It all bleeds together, you know? Because when I had first gone to see you, it was because I was just having issues in my head about business, where I was going, what to do, employee, all that sort of stuff. And then as I got to know you more, my true entity of other things that I wanted to do came out, and you allowed that by just knowing when I saw you that door was open. And so it's very cool to be able to do that stuff. I highly suggest it, everybody. No, this is awesome. I want to be able to put things together like this for people to be able to hear. You have such a great perspective on things, and I think as things come up over time, to have you on here and to be able to get it out to, my audience, which is a combination of business people, to hospitality people, to all sorts of stuff. I mean, right now I'm working on a hospitality, event where there's going to be sound healing, and I think it would be cool to have, some input from somebody such as yourself and me in doing things. And I think creating these communities where you have a traditionally abusive industry to a human's everyday physical, at least, and mental for that, just a lot of alcohol and staying up late and drugs and all that. I think to be able for us to create this community and help each other and help other people is an amazing thing at this point in our lives to be able to do. Because as I was even describing this morning to my trainer, I was like, when I die, I don't want people to be like, you know what, he was a great insurance agent, because nobody gives a shit. It's just like, I want to be able to add more to life, and to be able to know that, like you are doing every day, day in, day out, that we're opening the door to, let people know that it's okay to talk to somebody.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, and this is all coming right now, which is really cool. You had mentioned before, I'd love to have you on, every once in a while to kind of talk just current temperature of space and time. And so I could see a visual called breaking views versus breaking news. Yeah. It would be from breaking news. So right now, if we were to do that today, you've got some of the shootings that have been happening. That's been pretty crazy. There's still the war in the Ukraine, which has been going on. There's interest rates just went up again. Yeah. The market, crypto, these are all things right now. And so if we were to say, okay, what's the breaking view we can have based on what's going on.
What's going on now? Yeah, make it relative.
Right. So what I would say today for anyone listening is first to sit and start to zoom out. Because when we start really zooming in, we get hyper-focused, and that's not a great thing, because right now what we're hyper-focusing on is fear, doubt, worry based on these things that are coming at us. So we have to choose to zoom out. Okay, let's zoom out. And if you want to use human data, which I do believe is very important, let's do that. So where's the actual market at today based over the course of the last 10 years or 20 years? Okay, where are interest rates today based on the course of the last 10, 20 years? You would start to see, just using human data, there's a better perspective.
Yeah.
Just with market and interest rates alone. And then you would look at, okay, like, there's these shootings going on. Is there ever been anything before? Remember the Waco thing? And then there's the Unabomber. I mean, there's so many things over time that have happened. Okay, this has all happened. None of it's great, right? When you look at it, none of it feels good. However, what was the greatest thing we could do? Be our best selves. Collectively over time, there's a lot of bad things that have happened. This is one that'll add to the history books. But what can I do now to best affect this experience? Well, contribute to the high vibrational side. Contribute to the positive side of life versus keep feeding the negative with fear, doubt, and worry. Okay. And then the third thing you do, okay, let's just zoom out myself personally, and what can I do today if I were to do something to improve myself in this experience? Well, business is slower. Let me get on the phones again.
Yeah.
I used to get on the phones. If I look back 10 years ago, I was a phone guy. I would call people. I used to do lunches or dinners or whatever it is for you. When you zoom out and you start to look at how you've handled past experiences, how you showed up in those spaces and places to be bigger, you can use your own self and your own history as a coach,
right,
to support you today. So those would be three little things based on what's going on right now in our market.
Wonderfully said.
And that would be the breaking views.
Yeah, I love it, and we will do that and put that together for sure. Before we leave, and I have you tell everybody where to find you and other things. I have some really important questions for you. So, crypto or lotto?
Crypto.
Pizza or Jamaican food?
Pizza.
Oh, that was the wrong one. Aliens or Bigfoot?
Aliens.
There we go. Vader or Obi-Wan?
Obi.
Run or bike?
Bike. Ooh, mountain bike. Just
to clarify. Okay, he's really quick on his answers. Most people take so long. Silk or cotton?
Cotton.
Oh, and which one am I sure? The bar restaurant one or the one with my spiky hair?
Oh, I want silk, spiky hair shirt.
Okay.
If you've got that, but cotton, everything else.
All right, you did very well in your question. Thank you. There was no wrong or right answer, but you picked all the answers I thought you would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I don't know. Are you taking more clients?
I was just having this conversation this morning. It's right there at that edge.
Yeah. You're taking the right ones.
Maybe, but I'm still booked out over a month right now,
Okay.
which is great. I'm very grateful.
Yeah.